Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another one of our packed Tuesday evening Camberley Chess Club meetings. Chess isn't so much on the agenda tonight, in fact, because one of our members, Mark Payne, will actually be doing an introduction to the ancient game of Go and telling us about that. So without any more detail, I'll hand over to Mark.
Okay, thank you, Martin. So yeah, what I'm hoping to do this evening is give you an introduction, and because on the one hand, Go can be more complex, but on the other hand, it's very easy to learn. So by the end of this evening, you should know how to play the game. So what I'm going to do is give you some history on the game, which was the PowerPoint presentation you saw. Then I will take you through an online tool I found which will teach you the moves, and then we'll play a game. I'm going to suggest that I play the first game, and then if you want to, we can then do a game against the computer, and we can just take the best move shouted out from each of you. Now, because we are a chess club, I did think that I would try and make this last for 1 hour, and then we can have our break, and then if necessary, obviously you could do more Go afterwards, but we can flip to chess. And I've got some thing that I can do on chess later on, and I'm sure others of you have got that as well. But let me just, what is Go and what does it look like? Well, I've got a few props here. So this is a Go board, and you can see it's got 19 by 19 intersections, and which actually then sort of makes it a bit more complex than chess, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Each side has a set of stones, and they normally come in a nice. This is a walnut bowl, and these are the white stones made out of glass. There's a particular etiquette about holding the stone, so you would hold the stone as so and place it on the board. And if you want to be a bit more forceful, like you do in chess, sometimes bang your pieces down, you bang this down on the board and make a big clacking noise to emphasize your move if you wish. The black stones normally made out of slate, and here are the black stones. In terms of chess and Go, just show you a few of the things. You get books. You might recognize something like this, Opening Theory Made Easy, although openings aren't very big in Go. There's quite a lot of proverbs and various other things in Go, so pretty enigmatic titles in a lot of the books, as one of them, Life and Death, and another one here all about thickness. So and of course we all have your magnetic boards as well. Here's the start of a game where black's played in one corner and white's played in another corner. So I just wanted to show you those props, and I suppose I should say, is there any benefit of learning how to play Go? I'm not sure there is, but then again, it's useful to find out why this is so big in China and Japan and Korea in particular. Also, maybe understand different viewpoints about the way people approach the games. We might talk a bit about computing as well at some point. I think Richard Brown, I saw him on, I think Richard knows a little bit about the computing aspect. I will touch on that because that is very interesting, actually, about the difference and the complexity of that. So in terms of if you get good at Go, does it help you with chess? I'm not sure. It could be a distraction, but some people, I think Bill Hartston has reached high levels at both. But I think you all know a lady called Natasha Reagan. She came second in the Keith Richardson Memorial recently. And as you probably know, Natasha is, I think, a women's international master. She has represented her country at chess. But what you might not know is she's represented her country at Go, and she is the European pair Go champion. So I did think about reaching out to her and asking her to turn up, but I thought she might be horrified at some of the things I might do or not be able to do tonight. So, right. But what I'm going to do now is just give you some history on the game. I'm just going to go into this. So hopefully now you can see a PowerPoint presentation. Can you see that? Excellent. Okay. So there you go. There's a board. That is what the board looks like at the end of the game. So those two players have finished. Don't really know who's winning that game. I'm going to venture a suggestion that White has won that game. The game is all about creating territory, and you can see. Don't know if you can see my cursor, maybe not, but there is top right-hand corner. That clearly White has surrounded that territory. There's not many areas where Black has surrounded territory, so White has won that game. So I first came across Go when I was 15 years of age, and by then I've been playing chess for 7 or 8 years, and came across this quotation in a book. What Go is to philosophers and warriors, chess is to accountants and merchants. And I took that as a bit of an insult at the age of 15. And as a chess player, I could see the insult that was intended in that, and thought, well, I must learn how to play this game. And about 10 years later, when I was 25 and I was a qualified accountant, and read the book again, I could definitely see the insult and thought, I really want to play this game. And I happened to be working and bumped into in a bar that our company had a fellow employee who was playing Go. Turns out he was that year's British Go champion, a guy called Simon Shue, and he's a Dan level player, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And he taught me how to play, and then before you know it, I'm playing in a club. Ended up going to playing in a Go tournament, and one of the positive things, Go clubs, chess clubs, not dissimilar, really, but a little bit more emphasis on, let's say, the etiquette side of things. And I do remember, one very interesting evening at Newcastle University. I was living in the Northeast at the time, playing against the Korean Society, and we were kneeling on the floor playing Go on wooden Go bands, drinking tea in a rather formal way, and that was really quite interesting. So you'll hear it referred to as Go, and that's very difficult to do an internet search on Go. So if you do need to search, probably the best thing to do when you type the word Go in is to put the Mandarin word in Weiqi, which is what it's referred to in China. It's also referred to as Baduk in Korea, and they're the three main countries. So game generally recognized as being founded in China. It then really picked up by Japan, like a lot of things were, and Korea. With the Chinese Cultural Revolution, it was pushed into the background because this was seen to be a gentleman's game. And so Japan then really, after the Cultural Revolution, really took the lead in World Go, and probably still retains that today, although China's now coming back. As I said, the aim of the game is to surround more territory than your opponent. There are no movement of the pieces apart from taking them off when they're on the board, or not the pieces, the stones. Everything moves the same, therefore very easy to learn. So just a couple of comparisons here, which I thought you might be interested in. So you can see that Go, 2,500 years old, chess only 500 years old. So 2,500, it's mentioned by Confucius. Confucius apparently was rumored to have said he wished he could have lived another lifetime just to play Go. You can see, though, a big difference in active players, and that's really because not a lot of people play Go in the, shall we say, the West. Legal board positions. I find these statistics pretty mind-blowing, really. Oh, sorry, I've managed to flip that. I'm trying to move okay, I'm going to have trouble doing that. So legal board positions, you can see the size for chess, and then you can see the number of legal board positions for Go. So Go much more, and that's obviously because you're playing chess on an 8x8 board and you're playing Go on a 19x19 board. And I think this, I'm having trouble seeing the far right of my screen, but when it says atoms in the universe, and that's the observable universe, apparently there are more legal Go positions than atoms in the observable universe, which is pretty astounding concept to try and get your mind around. But that's one of the reasons why it's been very difficult to program computers to play Go. And so if you look at the first win, and it's arguable about computer wins, about how they came, what you take it from. But in 1996, a computer beat Garry Kasparov, and in 1997 it beat him in a I forget how many game series, a 5-game series. It wasn't until 2015 that the first sort of professional Go player was beaten by a computer. The computers we're talking about, I think you'll probably know them anyway. For chess was Deep Blue, and for Go it's a computer called AlphaGo. And in 2016, the world sort of Go champion, he expected to win, and everybody else expected him to win, but he didn't. Now, because of the board positions and legal board positions, I think we all know that chess quite often is won by the person. Okay, you need some strategy, but a lot of tactics, and it's how far ahead you can calculate. And a computer can calculate, obviously, very far ahead. That doesn't really is not as helpful as you would expect in Go, particularly because of those number of board positions. So what they actually did was to try and see if they could find it. They looked at it in a different way. And what happened with AlphaGo was they taught AlphaGo the rules, programmed in some ideas and how to evaluate positions, and then they set AlphaGo off playing against itself, and it played itself millions of times, and it learned. So it was all about learning, and eventually AlphaGo became strong enough to beat the world champion. And it actually did, in certain positions, start playing slightly differently. So it has changed Go, but in particular, this idea that computers can learn and what they can do. I believe some of the developments for AlphaGo have resulted in improvements in cancer diagnosis and things like that, about how you get computers to learn. So pretty interesting application rather than just being good at games. So I think this is the last sort of PowerPoint slide before we go and learn the rules. So as I've said, two opponents, one white, one black. Black moves first, but there is a game called Per Go, and as I've said, Natasha is the one of the 2 European champions at that. And what happens is you get a male and a female, and on each side, and you take it in turns. Perhaps a bit like chess. Perhaps Go and chess have always been seen to be male games at school, and now obviously more and more females playing it and proving they're sort of equal to men. I think it's the same thing happening in Go. In fact, one of the interesting things from my past is when I did get to play Go, we'd invited at the time the best female Go player in the world over on a tour of the UK, and sort of I got to host her for the day. She didn't know any English really, and I think I had to nip into work for a few hours, so I left this non-English speaking world Go player with my wife to entertain for about 3 hours one afternoon, and I don't think my wife can play Go, so I don't know what they did. Gradings. So we all know about chess gradings. If you start playing Go, you're given a ranking of 32Q, and you quickly progress of the rankings, and it's decided within the club. And so if you were to learn Go tonight and then start going to a Go club, I would imagine that by the end of the first month, you'd be at around about 25Q, and then gradually you would improve, and senior people in the club would agree what ranking you would be, and promote you by 1, etc. Just to show you what it is, I actually, surprisingly in my research, managed to find a tournament in Leicester from 1993. I had my name in. I didn't realize, you know, I don't think the internet was going in 1993, but somebody's typed it in. And apparently I had a rating of 11Q. Now, you then go 11, 10, 9, 8, all the way up to 1. 1 would be a very strong sort of amateur in the country. When you get to the Dan levels, you then become, you're moving into professionals. And it's a bit like, those of you that know martial arts, it's a bit like the rankings there. And in fact, Go rankings like this have, were the first ones to do it, and now it's martial arts. So once you're at Dan level, you are basically, you know, a black belt at Go. It's won by the person with the most territory, as mentioned before. You can resign when you realize that things aren't going your way. Draws are very rare, and the reason why is obviously a bit like chess, it's advantage to go first. And so you get what's called komi, and the komi is like 6.5 points. And so at the end, you count up your territory. The opponent counts up theirs. You look at the prisoners that you've taken or stones you've taken off the board. And then white would add 6.5 to the score, and that 0.5 makes all the difference, and that's why you don't get a draw. But there is some very rare situations when you can get a draw, and it's perhaps akin to when we get repetition at chess. But anyway, we're getting a little bit, it's very rare when that happens. As I've said, there are professional Go players, but they're really in the you know, East Asia. There are a couple. I think it's literally that number in Europe. I don't think there's many. I mentioned about the books, software you can play online, etc. Interestingly, this final point here, speed games. You can play with a clock. I think I played with a clock in the tournament. Can't remember. But you can shorten the board, and therefore a 9x9 board is less strategic, a little bit more tactical, and as you'll see later, a 9x9 game can take about 5 minutes. A 19x19 game is going to be the same length as a regular over-the-board chess game. Should mention about the gradings or rankings. If I'm a 10Q player and I play against an 8Q player, the 8Q player will give me a 2 handicap start, and I will place those 2 stones on my board, and then we're equal, and we will play the game like that. And you know, he will have to try and play a little bit more aggressively to overcome my advantage. But as a result of this, strong amateur players in the low sort of 1-2 Qs can beat you know, some of the Dan players using this handicap rule, which is very, very common. Right, so now I'm just going to show you what the what some of the rules are. So just flip over, and I'm going to share. I'm hoping I've got it loaded. There we go. Right, I thought this would be more interesting to you than me try and show this. So let me go. Can you see a Go board with A to J and numbers down the right, a very small one in the middle? Yeah, excellent. Okay, now this is where I do need to move that across. Okay, so this is the board at the start. Unlike chess, you're actually playing on the intersections. You're not playing in the squares. So you can play a stone on any cross line. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a stone right in the middle of the board. So what we have here is one of the ways, you know, you can see here that black is building up some territory in the top half of the board, but he's actually surrounded white's, this white stone with 3 stones. And white has only got what's called 1 liberty. Now, I can take away that liberty by putting that stone there. So that's how you capture a stone. In the same way, you can capture a group. You can see that this group is connected. This stone here, if I play here, I capture the group. And you can see here in the same way, you know, there's no liberties out here, so I'm going to capture that group. Right, you have to fill all of the space. So although this could be deemed as being suicide, and that's a term in the game, you're not allowed to commit suicide. Because I'm killing the group, I'm allowed to do it. In this position here, I can't go there because that is suicide, because I don't capture the group. See, it says it's suicidal. So what I have to do in this situation is I have to do that. White will play elsewhere, and now I can capture that group. So if white was to have a stone right in the middle at e5, white has what's called eyes. It would have an eye here and an eye here. And that would mean if I put a stone there, it would be suicide. So white is alive when he has two eyes. We'll touch on that in a minute. But so the only way to take away the two eyes, well, actually, let's see what happens if I do. There you go. That's failed. White's taken it, and now I can only commit suicide, which I'm not allowed to do by playing in there. So I'm going to retry this puzzle. And I'm going to play here. Now I've managed to kill that group, but just to show you how you kill it, I'm going to go here. White's now going to take. I'm going to go in here. White's going to take, and then I take all of those stones. And these stones are sort of held, you know, on my side, and I use these at the end of the game as part of my score. Right, now I've got to try and capture this group before white creates.
Right. Mark, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Just then, when you were doing, did white have to put the things in its own little area? Because I mean, you start filling it in, but it could just play elsewhere to avoid you being able to capture. Or not.
Yeah, and in fact, in a position like this, so let's say once I've gone here, yeah, white can just ignore that now, and we can both agree that that's dead. And in fact, white playing in there would be a mistake because he's using up his own stones and he's giving me more prisoners. So you're right. In a normal game, people would realize when a group is dead and they would not play on with that group. And I will show you that concept in an example game in a minute. Okay. Right, so here I need to capture these stones before they create two eyes, and perhaps you can see that there's an eye here and there's going to be an eye here, which I need to stop white playing in. So how do I stop white playing? Well, let me go here. That's not working. If I play here, that's not working. So I don't know if anybody can see the answer here. Well, I'm going to play here. Oh, sorry. Not doing very well on this. That's a suicide. Wait till this goes. Okay, so I've played that. Now I'm going to totally surround the group. And now I've killed it. Hopefully you followed that. Right. This is actually capture the white stones before white can form two eyes. So again, although I need to surround this group here, I've effectively surrounded it. He's not going to create any eyes here. He's only going to create an eye by the same thing as before. So again, I just go here. Now we're looking at things the other way. Black needs to live, so I need to create two eyes. So I'm going to do that. There is one critical move here to keep this group alive. I don't know if before I play, if anybody wants to shout out what gives this group two eyes. And in fact, I think it's three eyes, but
E5.
Yeah, that's right. Here, create two eyes to keep the group alive here, and perhaps an obvious one. If anybody wants to shout this one out. All right, I'm going to do it. B1. So white is now encroaching into my territory here, and he's in danger of splitting these two groups up. I don't want him to do that. You know, so if I play here, white will, if I was to play h5, white will invade at h6, split my group into two, give me two groups that have got one eye each, so they'll be dead. So I will go here, attacking him, and now I had a group. When there are no good moves to make, so here we have an end position where you can see black's built up all of this territory, white's got that territory. You would say that black's territory is more than white's territory. So there is a counting that goes on in the game. The only negative I can see here, though, is black has got these dead stones here. So white would take these stones at the end of the game and place them in here for counting purposes. And then you would see whether or not black really does have more territory. But anyway, I'm going to pass. Okay. So here, right, we're going to remove those dead stones. So I'm going to click on these stones. There you go, as it said. Okay, there's a few little, probably got time just to, some basic tactics as to where people play. So most people play, and take over a corner to start with. So, I might play here. Something like that is too defensive. That one is a reasonable place. This just explains the difference in the board size. We're now moved on to 19 by 19. For what it's worth, in the opening, playing on that could be a little bit aggressive. You would not play too far out. You would tend to play here or here. The knight move actually is, and I think it's referred to in Go, but that might be a Western thing. Knight jumps, in terms of placing your second stone, are normally quite common. So it's asking me to play on a star point. These are the star points. Right. I now need to capture these stones. White is creating a ladder, and you'll see what I mean by a ladder. So I'm going to place here in the hope that on the next go, I can play on G7 and kill the group. Okay. He's trying to escape out. But eventually white runs out of space. I kill his group with the ladder. So I'm going to do the same here, just show you how ladders work. Now in this particular group, white will run into the black stone, which helps me out to kill the group before. So now I've got to try and do the other concept to try and keep this group alive. I'm going to run towards my black stone and keep that alive. What do I do here? I've got to go here. There we go. Right, kept that group alive. There's a few little rules. We're getting onto things like en passant and things here now. Those sort of types of special rules, which you might play a whole game and not actually see some of these things. So here, if I play on F3, white plays on F4 and has that group alive and running off to create some space. I'm going to kill them by using snapback. So I'm going to place a stone at F4. White takes back. This time I take back and kill the group. I'm going to kill these two white stones in the same way. Yeah, I'm going to kill them that way. I think we've done enough on snapback, so they get a bit more complex, and I might not know how to do some of them. Right, so Seki is a position here where these stones here look as though they're dead, but white is going to have trouble killing them because of his three stones here. So the tactic here, I believe, is for me to threaten to capture these stones, and in the same way here, that I think if I play here, oh sorry, if I play in the middle. Now it didn't really pause long enough, but I think we're getting into too many specialist ones, so we'll just end with this final sort of specialist one here. There's a position here called Ko, and I'm going to take this stone here, but you can see that this stone I'm placing on B2 is surrounded by three other white stones. So white could then take back on c2, and then similarly I could take back on b2, and we could repeat endlessly. So there's a co-rule which says you've got to play away, basically. So I go here, white plays somewhere else. I might decide to do. Oh, sorry. Let me kill the stone. So I can have a play away, or in this position I could you know, do something different. But okay, so that's the fundamentals of the game. So now you all know how to play the game. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to move over to.
Can I ask a quick question, Mark?
Yes, Martin.
I'm sure you covered it and I missed it, but I assume that the game starts, and you mentioned before that black goes first, I think.
Yes.
So black places a stone, white places a stone, black places a stone, etc. So that's the way it starts. And you talked about those key squares, and you quickly said something about you shouldn't go near them, or you should, or something. And that just completely passed me by. I couldn't see at all why the centre wouldn't be the best, for example, or one away from the corner might be good. Can you elaborate on that, or will that come out in the game?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me go to this demonstration board here. Now, I have to point out that I think when I joined Camberley and started coming to these evenings, I hadn't played over the board chess. I've still not played a physical opponent for 30 years, and the same goes for Go as well. So I'm know far less about Go in reality. But let me see if well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to play a new game, and what I'm going to do is set this up as a 19 by 19. I'll take away any handicap. So, you know, the computer is going to be far better than me here. And I'll see if I can show you the points I'm referring to. So it looks as though I'm set up to be black. So can you see my cursor if I use that to point? Yeah. So I think, Martin, that if you were trying to create territory, walling off something here is going to be much more difficult than, let's say, you know, a series of stones that take a corner here. And so what I was referring to was, you know, if I play, let's say, here. Now, if I want to, I could now, let's say, play here. Right. Now, what's happened here is you could more or less say from the, you know, examples before that this is my territory now. White doesn't have territory yet. White's played quite aggressively. He's encroached my territory. Now, let's say, and I'm just going to show you for the purposes of example, let's say I'm going to really try and wall off this little square here. So I'm just going to do this. White's going to play very close to me all the way through this. Now I'm going to try and peek out here. Now I'm playing way too tight here. And you can see here that all this is doing is giving white all of this space here. So that was not really a very good idea. So I think then what I'm trying to say, Martin, is that, yeah, you would tend to play around about here to start with, and then branch out and create a bit more space. So, you know, the correct moves here really are not really a single jump like I've done here, or a double jump, probably a treble. So having realized my mistake here, I might decide to do something different now and say, well, I really need to take some more space here. Now, white, you know, realizes he's got all this space. So now I'm going to have to play over here. I'm really going to come out here. So I'm just going to play some example moves and see how far I get. It's probably too early in the game to be getting into little tactical battles, but so what we've got here is a position now where I've got this space here. Oh, White's decided to invade it because he realizes that this is quite strong. White's got a little bit of space here. This is looking like it's going to be mine, and there will be some space in the middle, Martin. Here could be white, so I might decide to either creep out here, probably try and undercut, maybe create a bit of. So I think as a new player, you wouldn't really start on a 19 by 19. You would try and get the fundamentals first, but hopefully you can see, and probably I'm still trying to sort of answer your question in a long about way, Martin. But
no, I think you've answered it. I mean, I'm getting the idea from seeing some of the responses. It's raised another question: is there such a thing like in chess as the engine that will show you how white is doing against black, so that when you make a move that is pretty bad, you get a minus? Do you know what I mean? The bar.
Yeah, I've not seen that, and I will admit it's because I've not been playing online Go, and when I used to play Go, these sort of tools weren't available. So I'm suspecting there is a score. I think normally as you go along, players would start to probably do it in the head. So I would have thought, yeah, computers do it, because a player in this position, let's say it was black and I was really comfortable, I might decide to just wall this area off. However, at some point, I'm going to say, well, actually, I think I've got 30 points here, white's got 15 here, and so on. And I'll have a score in my head and then think, no, this is not good. I'm going to have to be a bit more aggressive. So yeah, I think scoring would exist. So now I'm going to say, no, I'm going to come and split these in half, and really do something. You can see here white has split my two camps, which is never good. Now, just Martin, I'm going to try and create this area in the middle, and I just want you to see how difficult it can be, because firstly white's peeking out here. White will just gradually erode it and trying to trying to create space in the middle is just very difficult. Yeah, I'm not managing it. I'm not holding the space in the middle. It's proving too difficult. So with that in mind, let me just show you a much more simpler game. So I'm going to play a new game. I'm going to play it on 9 by 9. Now I'm going to cheat a bit here, and I'm going to say I need 4 stones handicap. I think the computer's 4 better than me. And at 9 by 9, I'm guessing the computer isn't better than me. So this is what I mentioned about the handicap. So I get these 4 stones here, and you can see that I've really got this territory already laid out. So the computer is going to have to play quite aggressively, and I don't need to play aggressively at all here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to play. I suggest maybe let me run through this game. Obviously, shout out if you want to or ask questions. Probably take me a couple of minutes to go through this, and then we can maybe play one where you can all have a share in the moves. So the computer's trying to wall off some space here. I'm not bothered about that. I've got plenty of space. However, he's weakened that stone. I want to give the stone a liberty. I could play next to it, but I think I'll play one away, joining these two. Right. So what I'm going to do now is he's splitting the 2 stones. I'm going to play here, attacking this white stone by threatening to play here. So I'm going to do this. Right. So white's now got this group here has got 1, 2, 3, 4 liberties. I probably need to
was H4 was H4 forced, Mark? It looked like it was.
It was if he wants to keep the stone.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the computer could have played F3, might have been a good move.
Okay, but like in chess, there's some moves that if you don't do it, then you can predict what might happen, and that may be good. It looked good.
Yeah, and I'll show you a situation like that in a minute. And so for example, if I play here now, the computer might play F2 and run away, or he might quickly realize he's just going to lose F3, so he might play elsewhere. Okay, and in a similar situation here, yeah, there is only one move here. I could decide to play f5, giving this stone a connection, but I'm just going to take the f3 stone, and that gives that stone, space to live. I'm going to do this here, right, and same here. I'm going to kill a few of these off. I think now white is looking to try and create some territory here. So I am not going to bother taking this stone for the moment. I'm going to say, well, I can take that stone whenever I want. So I'm going to play here. Right, now I'm going to build a little bit of a wall while attacking these stones. Now, Martin, you mentioned an obvious, other obvious moves. I'm guessing if I play at a6, threatening to take the stone with a4, there's only one way to defend the stone after a6, and it's to play white to play a4. Okay, so he plays a4. One danger here is white could now play here at b6, threatening a7, and therefore one way to deal with that is either join them up, or I could even just play here. And then if white plays b6, I can play c6. So I think I'll play here. Oh, okay, he's done that anyway. That really now forces me to take that stone. I don't really know what white's doing, and what the computer will play it very. Going back to what you said about points and scoring, even though the computer's probably very lost here, the computer will probably. If I pass, I think the computer will pass, and even though that would mean he would lose. So, although I don't really want to make another stone movement, I'm just going to make a few more plays just so that.
What did you mean by pass, Mark?
Well, I'll tell you what, we will answer that in a few moves' time. You'll see a lot of passing going on.
We've not heard that before, have we, tonight?
No, I'm sorry if that's not the case. But if you don't want to move, you don't need to, and it only happens at the end of the game. So we will reach that point in a minute. Right, white has got one eye here. He can create another eye if he goes on b1. So I'm not going to let him go on b1. All right, now I'm going to take that away. Okay, let's see now if you see one of the things I'm doing by taking away some of. So, for example, let's say I now play here. If I play another move, I might decide this group is dead, this is dead, this is dead, because there are no groups with two eyes. If I place a stone in here, I'm taking away a stone of my territory. So I get to the point here where I think, I think I've done enough. I don't need to prove anything further. Actually, maybe this group here might think it could live. So let me make an incursion here. Okay, surprised about that. I think a certain length of group is alive. So what I'm going to do is just keep going in here. In fact, for demonstration purposes, I might let this group live. So let's. Okay.
Mark, you sorry. So do you get the points for the blank spaces that you managed to?
Yeah.
Encapsulate. It's not just where you have your own markers, like in Othello or something like that.
That's correct, and we'll see that in a minute, Richard. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass. Now, the problem is when two people pass, then that's the end of the game. The computer, generally, as soon as I pass, the computer tends to pass. I know it from experience. What will happen in a real game is I might pass, white might decide to, let's say, play, is that I3? I might pass again. The computer might decide to attack me somewhere. Let's say, might decide to go up at D8. And so I might then be forced to play. So I'm going to pass. The computer passes. What happens now? So this answers your question. I think it was Richard. So what the computer is saying is I've won by 54 points. And basically, it's counted up my territory. It has given me these dead stones and, use them. So if you were to count up take these stones off the board, count up my territory, and take into account these and give me an extra point for each of these, that gives me 54. White it's given white this territory here. And as I said before, I probably could have killed that if I wanted to. So apologies if that was perhaps a very quick run through and a little complex, but you can see there that 9 by 9, you can learn how to play the game and the rules very quickly. And we probably therefore got
Mark,
yeah.
Mark, can you just take me through that scoring again? I didn't quite follow that. I can see all the shaded squares. So how many of those are there?
Okay. 1,
2, 3, 4, 5,
yeah.
6, 7.
I'll let you count them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Mark, can I ask about passing?
Yeah.
The motivation to do it, is it because you believe you're making your position worse by putting more stones down?
Well, I think I only make my position worse in as much as I'm placing stones in my own position. So if you take the territory here, I've got 2 points of territory. If I place a stone in there, I've only got 1 point of territory.
Yes.
So if I believe I've got the territory and I don't need to strengthen it any further, then I don't play in it and I keep the points.
Yeah.
The thing about the territory I have here, and I don't know if this helps with the counting, and I don't know if it was Steve. What we have to do, Steve, is we have to take the dead stones off, and this is my territory. So E7 is my territory, F7 is my territory, but I have the stones as well. And what you would do with the stones is you would fill the stones into, to count, you would actually use the stones to fill in the white territory first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then count all of my territory and then add on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you should get to that number of 50 something.
So is passing normally the way that a game would conclude?
Yes.
Okay.
When 2 players agree that it's not worth playing on any further, because for example here, when white passed, well, firstly, white can't play into areas where it's suicide, and white is going to look here and say, well, there's no way I can create 2 eyes. So if white was to play at B2, I would probably pass. If white was to play at C2, eventually there comes a point where if white was to play at B9, D9, and A8, he's got 2 eyes. So at some point, I'm going to have to come in and make a move.
Okay.
You can always resign, John.
And you can always resign. So,
is it? You said it's quite ceremonious.
How's offering a draw as etiquette?
Well,
I'm not
sure
have a draw.
This game is suitable for me because there aren't so many opportunities to offer
a draw opportunity.
Sorry, Mark. Could I ask a question? Oh,
yep.
It's gone now. Never mind. I'm just a bit confused about how you decide balls are dead or not.
Okay. Well, why don't we've got a few minutes left before a break? Why don't we play this game and see if we can answer your question, Colin?
Sure.
So, why doesn't so white's played on at G5. We've got a 4-point head start. So why doesn't somebody shout out a move for black?
Go on, Gordon, play G4.
G4 is not a bad move. We've now given ourselves the right
They
one.
are. You got him. The man himself said G4 is a good move.
And
No,
we-
take
Grob
4.
go. Grob go attack.
Very good, Ken. Yeah.
okay, where would we like to play next?
E5.
E5, right. What's happening with E5 is we are creating some territory on the left, and we're also starting to attack these stones and surround these stones, the 2 white stones. So that's a good move. White's trying to escape. So probably a good idea to maybe block.
E-
E7.
I
E7,
would
I
think
think.
E7 is probably the best move. Yeah,
Now F8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. Right, now this is interesting that
Watch out.
Is this
yeah,
allowed?
this
Be
stone
careful now.
this stone is going to get surrounded, and we might decide to let you might decide to let black have the stone. Sorry, white have the
Maybe-
stone. You might decide to say, well, actually, if I surround these while he's taking that, he's going to have this little bit of territory here, and I'm going to have all of this. But you might want to make this one live. You going to have trouble running away because you don't have a lot of space. So I don't know. What does somebody think is the best move?
H8.
H8.
That will-
Right. Well, we'll
that
play.
will win.
Yeah, I think H8 is as good as any. Now,
Oops.
G9.
yeah, I think
Time to take it.
yeah, I think that's definitely the best move. And now you can see that these stones are effectively connected, and yeah, white's struggling now. So next move,
F4.
F4. I think F4 is pretty good. It stops white trying to invade through this gap. I thought white might do that one. So does
Block
anybody
him.
want-
D6.
Yeah.
Surround that one.
Right. Do we want to play C5 or D4? Oh, sorry, my finger hovered. White's playing very aggressively here, so I think there's an
But
obvious.
now you
reason.
play
Sadly.
D4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
D4.
D4 would have been a better move. Oh, hold on,
Oh.
hold on. Let me.
Can you use the
No,
arrow?
it's like-
D4 is okay
Come
here.
back.
It's like those
let's
consultation
undo.
games.
Game. Undo. There we go. Yeah, you're right. Next move.
B4. Keep
Yes.
killing him.
Keep killing these. These stones aren't really going anywhere. Where do we want to play next? Now, this is,
D2.
D2.
okay. Before we play D2, this is a point where, going back to, was it Colin who was saying, are the stones dead or alive? There are no groups with eyes like, I've got all of these liberties here. It's obvious to see how I can kill these 3 stones. I'd venture to say all of these stones are dead. So if I wanted to, and if I was in a formal game, I might just say, no, I'm going to pass now. I believe these are stones are dead. It's up to you, the opponent, to prove the living by creating the eyes. But let's go. I think we said D2.
Is it not risky to pass too much? Because
there does come a point where your opponent suddenly starts doing something, and you will have to react. But if he's done 3 moves, you've done 1 pass. Sorry, if you've done 3 passes to his 3 moves before you then start moving, well, you've saved yourself putting stones into your own territory. So
He's giving
it's
you
worth
more
it.
prisoners.
Well, you can just keep taking prisoners. Yeah, you can keep playing. But if I was to start taking lots of prisoners, I end up with just putting an awful lot of stones into my own territory. I'll give you an no.
You're going to win anyway.
Yeah, I'll give you an example here. He's just going to keep doing this. See, and I'll just end up taking them, and then. Do you see what's happening here? He's just getting me to play in my own area. And,
but you're getting all those points added on to
but
your...
I'm getting all those points added on, and but potentially I'm wasting my time. Here is a good example. I'm saying, look,
not a lot better. Not a lot to do though.
Yeah, but you could just turn around and say, you know what, I think you should resign. By passing, and we can count up. So I'm just going to keep passing and let you waste your time. So here we might decide to pass.
But am I right in thinking it doesn't make any difference if you win by 1 point or 10 points?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Although, yeah, I don't think even in gradings or tournaments, people take account of the fact that you wiped your opponents off the board. A win by 1 or a win by 100.
Surely in Japanese that's pretty insulting to wipe them off the board, isn't it? Probably it's probably bad sportsmanship.
Well, it is that, and although there is etiquette, you probably heard me using words like killing the stones, life, death.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in this. The computer's passed, and the computer has
Had enough.
decided. So I think when I was playing, I won by 50 odd. You've all won by 81 by killing everything. And so congratulations, Camberley, you've won your first game of Go.
Mark,
Yeah.
So, okay.
are there time controls in Go?
So I think it depends on the formality. If you were just going to have a short game on a board like this, there probably wouldn't be. On a 19 by 19, I think there is. I'm sure I used, and I think they call them chess clocks. They don't call them
Couple hours.
Yeah, I seem to recall games taking, over an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Sorry, Mark, can you go through why those white balls are dead?
Okay, well,
They're just going to
because
get surrounded.
yeah, so
There's no territory they surround, is there?
well, I'll tell you what. Let me just maybe the best way to show you, Colin, is to just do play very quickly. I'll show you. Right. So let's say we get to an end position where these, I'm going to say these two are dead, or I'm just going to prove how these are dead. Well, or not in the case because I was watching these. So what you're trying to do is to take away the liberties of these groups. So this one here, I kill it by playing in here. Now, what I'm going to try and do is save this one because white can kill it by surrounding this one. And you can see here now, I'm going to kill the, so whereas before what I was trying to do was demonstrate, I don't need to take these because they don't have an eye. Now I can take them off. It's going to be a little bit difficult. Yeah, now, and here we have a situation where actually what white has done is white is going, right, I don't understand why white didn't just play here and kill these, because now I kill those stones. So, and these stones live because they have eyes, and I don't need to demonstrate the eyes, I just need to, so I don't need to have the eyes, but just to show you, I created 2 eyes there. So on the basis of white can't commit suicide by playing here or here.
Okay.
They always, this
And
group
you can't
is alive.
suicide into 2 independent eyes.
Yeah. So the best thing to do if you want to explore those concepts is just keep playing this, and it won't let you, do these illegal moves. And anyway, we'll get into another game. So that is the game. We just got to 9:05. So obviously, what you could do is you could, once you've played tactically on this, then you might want to start exploring the bigger games. Harry, to go back to your point about time limits, I think you mentioned about time. I'd have to say I'm not familiar with Go servers. I would have thought, yeah, there's going to be 5-minute games, 3-minute games. I would have thought, but yeah, I do know they play a clock, and in very formal games, the players, again, maybe it's Japanese etiquette, don't even press their own clocks. They have people who press the clocks for them. So,
is it a clock like a chess clock then?
yes,
Can play on chess clocks here.
Yes, but as going back to when I played in the tournament back in the 90s, it was a standard chess clock. The new ones with increments, I don't know whether they do increments. Maybe they do. I don't really know that.
Okay. Should we take a break for, I'd say 2 or 3 minutes?
Yep.
And I don't know about all you guys, but my brain needs a break after that. It's a very simple game, but it's obviously got a hell of a lot to it, and it was quite difficult following a lot of those things. But actually, Mark, you've explained it extremely well. I had to go trying to understand Go a few years ago, and I probably spent more than an hour, and I didn't get anywhere near as far as this. So you've done a great job so far. So let's take a break for a few minutes, shall we?
Yeah, and after the break, Martin, I don't know, we can either explore this a bit more through questions, or we could, I'm happy to look at some chess if people want to do some chess. And
okay. All right, let's decide when we come back in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Martin. The fact that she's played country level at both shows that there must be some similarities going on in her brain, but I could imagine it being confusing for some people. But,
maybe she would have been women's world champion 10 years earlier if she'd not done Go. We don't know.
She could have.
I can see that the ability to calculate in both is a commonality.
Yeah.
Well, Natasha's also very, very competent at bridge.
Oh,
is she?
Okay.
Contract bridge, auction bridge.
Goodness.
She's probably got a very good mind for doing the different things, whereas I think a lot of people find it difficult. You focus on one thing, and that's fine. You can improve it. And try and focus on too many things, and you can't. But I'd be interested to see whether a bit of Go helps your chess. As long as it doesn't hinder it, I think I'm interested. But if it hinders it, then you've got to decide, haven't you, whether you want to play it. It certainly looks like an interesting game.
I'd say if my opinion is if for younger people in the club and beginners, then it's a distraction. But shall we say us, the rest of us, it could be a welcome diversion every now and then. And I think reading some of the books, it depends where you are in your chess career, I think.
I quite like the idea of the club committee deciding people's gradings. Being power crazed, I quite like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Martin? You think you could take that role on as part of your chairing duties?
Yeah, I think we could do that, and obviously we'd be open to bribes. I mean,
absolutely,
open to suggestions.
Yeah,
that's no different to sorting out your handicap at a golf club.
Is that true? Is golf handicap not calculated?
Well, yeah, but you have to submit so many rounds on the card to the
so you have to submit so many rounds in the
they calculate it and fiddle it. So
right, yeah.
But Ken, you don't have the concept of standard scratch in Go. You're all playing on the same board.
Yeah, well, it depends. You might have to give people a handicap start.
Oh, you do. I think as explained with the ranking, that when you play, then basically the handicap that's given to you sort of hopefully will even the game up. So, but it's not like going round, sort of Downshire Park and getting a handicap there, and then someone else is playing at St Andrews for the same handicap.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Right, we're all back. Shall we resume?
Yeah.
Aye.
So Mark, did you want to? Did you want to throw it open to questions? Because I should imagine there are a few on Go first.
Yeah, I can. Any questions? As I've said, if anybody wants to flip it to chess and has got something to show on chess, more than happy to do that. And otherwise, being relatively new to the club and hearing you talk about this exciting thing called the London system, I had a couple of games on the London system that I could show, and I must admit I was hoping that if I ever did that, there might be a couple of beginners on that didn't know it as well as I did, and I could explain why it's a good opening for a beginner. But
can I just ask a question about Go before we do that?
Yeah, please.
Well, or maybe it's a question, maybe it's a comment. I think perhaps like Colin, I was finding it rather difficult to assess from the board who surrounded the most space. And when you get two very good, evenly matched players playing, their judgment about how much space they've captured must be very difficult, and that must be one of the arts to it, is knowing when you're winning, and then and therefore when you need to start passing. That looks extremely difficult to me.
Yeah, I think that, you know, at the professional level, that they'll have it calculated exactly, and they'll know exactly where it's going at, let's say, our level, or, you know, when I played, then it's fairly obvious, especially when you're playing, you know, a really good player, you know, when you're losing and when you've lost. When I played in the tournament, did have an interesting game where I was playing somebody, and I think we both were uncertain as to which one had won. And when we were counting the groups, I think he suggested one of his groups was alive, and I agreed with him. And a very good player was watching and didn't say anything, because that would have been, I think, a breach of etiquette as well. And we calculated the scores, and I think I lost by a couple of points. And then he then demonstrated that actually the territory that my opponent had, which we agreed was alive, was actually dead, and he proved how it was dead and how I would kill it. And he said, therefore, if you hadn't agreed that, you would have won, and you should have just played in it just to demonstrate it in the game. So it was a learning experience, and it can be complex, particularly until you get a bit more experience.
But you would have had to know how to win, presumably, if you were going to demonstrate it.
Yeah, and you know,
if you didn't, then
correct. And it's a bit like one of those, you know, dare I say, back in the adjudication times, when you know, you used to say, well, I know, you know, rook and pawn versus rook in this position, I will win the end game. You have to demonstrate how to win it, and not all of us can. And in that position, I wasn't experienced enough to know how to kill that group. And so you're right. So it was a fair result because I lacked the experience.
Presumably you can notate games and record them for posterity.
Yeah, I will admit in the tournament we didn't. Now,
so you don't score the game as you might do in chess or drafts or.
Can I show you
Scrabble as well?
Can I share something very quickly? I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation, if you can see that, and see this slide here. Oh, sorry. It's a little bit blurred, but you can see here, this is a position. And so in a book, you would see something like this as well. And it shows where the stones are by number. So black's played 1 and so on. So if you can imagine a whole board, then you can see where they are by number.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because in chess, you see a position, but you don't know how you got there. You look at the moves to see how you got there, but actually it doesn't really matter the position. So this shows you that the order the stones were put down.
Yeah, and I think where stones are then taken off and then played back in again. I think there's a numbering system with that. Again, perhaps I'm not experienced enough to know that, you know, maybe when you're writing it down, you might actually do what I did before with B4, B5. You know, I don't know.
You must have to, surely.
Yeah. I will admit I can't remember anybody notating at the tournament, but this is what, nearly 30 years ago. So yeah, I'm a bit uncertain.
Well, you mentioned the computers playing like AlphaGo. Clearly, they would have had the notation, and one assumes it would be, you know, A4, B6, etc.
Yeah, you would have thought it was it was something like that, but yeah, that's yeah.
They say that it goes a lot more intuitive, right? That's why they said that it would take such a long time for computers to be able to beat them, because it's all about intuition. So I guess there would be less of an element of going, I don't know, in a game of chess, you might go through move by move, and you can see there's going to be one move that's going to be the difference between doing the great opening and messing up your opening type thing. Whereas I guess in Go is a lot more conceptual, and, you know, playing, it's not, I'm just guessing it's not one particular move, but it's sort of the ensemble.
That's correct. And certainly on a 19 by 19 board, you hear of players saying, well, you play by intuition. And again, comparing chess to Go, people would say Go is more like poetry. You know where you're playing the moves, and you can switch off if you want. There becomes those little tactical skirmishes where you're trying to kill a group, and you need to know how to do that. But yeah, you're right. It's more intuitive, and therefore the moves tend to be made quicker. Although there are stories about the professional Go players of the past taking a day over a game and over a move and things like that because they never had clocks. But you're generally right. It's more intuitive, and people tend to think less about the move placement.
So can you play through games played by the top players from the past?
Yes, yeah, and that's very very common types of books. Demonstrating positions and things.
If you grab one of your books, Mark, and open it, does it show you the moves?
I think the books that I've got here are, I'll give you an example. This is let's see if you can you see this? I'm not seeing.
Hold it up a bit.
Hold it a bit higher. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't see this on the screen for some reason, but so what this is showing again is it's got black played there to start with, number one, white played there, black played here, and then it's suggesting where white should play to lean on these stones. So yeah, that's this is one about what it's called thickness, and using the notation that we just described. Here's another good example with the numbering down there. I don't actually have ones which go through a whole game, but I did notice in researching that the female world champion that came to stay with us in the UK many years ago, I did notice that she's written two books, and one of the books is just an annotation of 2 amateur games, and she basically explains what they should have done, and it's a book just with 2 games in, and so yeah.
Interesting.
Mark, you said obviously Go has a history. You sort of say that in sort of chess terms, it's existed in its present form for perhaps maybe 150, 200 years or so. How far back does Go go? Excuse me.
So they say at least 2,500 years, and the rules haven't changed. They do think it could be as many as 4,000, and so yeah, pretty ancient. And they've got pictures of people playing it, and they found like little Go pieces with engravings on and things, like our Isle of Lewis chessmen and things. So yeah, pretty ancient game.
Yeah, I think chess is said to have started in 600 AD in India.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit earlier maybe, but it wasn't. The rules obviously have evolved, and yeah.
Backgammon's the oldest, isn't it? Something like 5,000 years old.
Sorry?
I think backgammon is the oldest of the games that we still play. I think, from what I've heard, I think it's over 5,000.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We need a backgammon session in the future, obviously.
One of the Mark, I was really grateful that you touched on that AlphaGo business, because there's a really good Netflix documentary that I recommend to anyone, and it's about the moment where Lee Sedol, who at that point was sort of the reigning world champion, plays against the best computer at the time, and they do it over like a 5 or 6 match, like back and forth. And the really cool thing in like the post-match interviews, if he lost that particular game, all the interviewers, who were also, you could see, massive fans of the game, were saying, well, Lee, if anyone can do it, you can do it. And you can see the pressure really mounting on him, because he's not playing for himself, he's not playing even for his country, but he's playing, you get the impression he's playing for all of humanity, right, against all of computers. But it's a really, really well done documentary. It's really interesting.
Yeah, what is the name of the documentary?
It's just called AlphaGo, which is the name of the
okay.
Yeah.
No, I'll have
I
to look.
think if you put in something like Lee Sedol or Deep Mind or something like that, you'll probably find it.
Yeah, definitely AlphaGo. There's also another one about the development. I think more from the Google perspective of actually developing DeepMind and everything like that. So that again is worth watching. Yeah.
And Demis Hassabis, the guy who's the CEO of DeepMind, he was a junior England captain, I think, in chess. So
So both of those series you both mentioned on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you find them on Google, if you just on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look at those.
Yeah.
And they talk about one of the moves in this game against the world champion. There's one move in particular where, because they just set the computer free and they're just watching it play, and they're just putting all their faith in it that it does what they've programmed it to do, right? And it plays one move which seems like it's thrown a spanner in its own works, and it turns out like hundreds of moves later that was the one decisive move which then won at the game. And the cool thing is that then, as Mark was saying earlier, I think it was then humans could start learning from the computer, because I think the human intuition is to try and win by the biggest margin possible. Whereas the computer said I only ever need to win by just one counter extra. So what's the moves that I could do which maximize the number of scenarios in which I would win by 1 point, rather than only a few scenarios in which I'd win by a lot of points. And so that's like a slightly different way of thinking.
But might take more risk to do it, so it minimizes its risk, including it increases possibility of winning.
Exactly.
Simpler game, yeah.
Yeah,
so then the humans can start learning from the computer and vice versa.
And I think, Mark, when you first mentioned the use of computers to learn to play Go, I think you said that they programmed the computer to know the moves, and I think you said that programmed it to know some of the basics. My understanding is they didn't bother with that. They just programmed the computer to know the moves, because then you've got the artificial intelligence coming in, which learns by playing. So, like with chess, with that, when they did that with chess, it obviously played completely different openings from what we perhaps would have played, because it doesn't know the openings. And I think surely that was the same with Go, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
They went through a few iterations, I think, where in AlphaGo, I think they taught it some stuff. Then they went through another couple of iterations. I think the current best is called AlphaZero. I think that's also the best in the world of chess as well as Go. And I think that was completely untaught. So it just knows what legally it can do. And then they set it against itself, and then it just learns by itself and won that way. Yeah.
Fascinating. Oh, Steve's holding up a book. If you say something, Steve, your screen will unmute. And
this is the book that Matthew Sadler and Natasha Reagan wrote about AlphaZero, mainly about its chess games. But it does mention a bit of the historic background that the Alpha programmers started with Go and then moved on to chess. I've read about half of this. I can't, to be honest, remember what it said about Go, but I suspect you're right, Richard, that they fed it a bit more of the rudiments, the theory, as well as the rules when they started with Go, but they didn't do that with chess. Simply, they set it going, and then it played millions of games against itself, and it learned from those. It's fascinating.
I think they started off with a lot of games between strong human players, and taught it those, let it learn from those to start with.
No,
I don't think it even did that.
With Go, it did. That's how they built up the policy network for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
then they let it go its own way later on.
Were they all London systems, Ken?
No, there was a lot of 1G4.
Mark, unless there's any more questions, you also prepared something. Oh, Colin wants to ask.
Sorry, a very trivial question on Go. I'm sure it's a trivial question, but I don't do it in the evening without knowing. On the various boards, there are some dots. Do they mean anything in the game, or are they just reference points?
The big dots are called star points, and they are reference points. They're just
okay. Thank you.
I
gathered that. I just wanted to verify it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
That's where you put handicaps on.
That's that's a key point. Yeah. Sorry. So if you have a 4 a 4-point handicap, you would place your stones on each of those 4.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, Ken, though, I think you have the right to put them anywhere, but I think you tend to put them on the star points.
I don't remember whenever I played anyone, I got like about 9 points, so I just put them all over the bloody board.
Yeah, but you put them on those. You put them on those.
Yeah, that's
points.
right. Yes,
Yeah,
didn't do me any good, mind. But,
but presumably, if you're playing somebody with a 4 handicap, then there's, from your point of view, there's surely a best place for those to be. Why wouldn't you say, well, I'm in the corners, out the way?
Yeah, I think you definitely want them on those 4 points because you're sort of taking most of the space. If you put them all together and just mark off a corner, a good player will immediately just take the other 3 corners. So, yeah, you have them evenly spaced, and it just allows you to play wherever. But yeah,
there's a lot to this go, isn't there?
Yeah, and as I say, I was very fortunate that the British Go champion lived down the road from me, and you know, we were similar ages, and you know, so he had a few evenings in the local pub teaching me how to play and things. So that was quite you know, quite interesting.
Very good.
You learnt as a child?
No, sorry, I was about 25, 26 when I met.
No, the Go champion.
Oh, I'm sorry. He learned
as a child.
Sorry, he learned from his father. Yes, he was. Simon Shu. He was born in Hong Kong, and so you know, he learned it, you know, in the sort of Cantonese environment, and then moved over to the UK.
In general, are the really good, the Dan players? Have they been playing their whole lives? You know,
they
start very early.
Same as chess, and China has schools and you know, things that yeah. So it's very similar. I think the best UK player is not of you know, sort of Asian descent, but yeah, it tends to be dominated by people who sort of come from that region.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mark. On Go, I think we might come back to this subject at some point. It might warrant a follow up in many months when we've all had a little go at it.
I could do one on drafts if you're interested.
Yeah.
I have looked at interdrafts, and you know, the idea that this is a solved game, but yeah, the history of it is quite interesting.
Oh, okay.
I think 8x8 is meant to be solved, but 10x10 is not. But
oh, right.
Isn't international drafts 8x10 though?
No, 10x10.
10x10. I thought it was 8x10. Okay.
No,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then as soon as they solve it, they'll just move up to 11x11. You know.
Yeah.
I think backgammon's been solved.
I'm sure.
With loaded dice.
No, I just think that it's just because it's very, very mathematical and all sort of probability
Oh, of
based.
course. Yeah. There's only yeah.
I think the phrase, I think it's called Snowy. It's the computer that is reckoned to be, you know, the best backgammon player ever. Also.
All right.
Is that invented by Tintin?
No, I was waiting for that, John. So. And you didn't disappoint.
On that note, we'll move on, John.
Yeah. As I say, keep saying, John, leave it to the professionals. You know.
Mark, you had some prepared games. If you have, then we'd love to see one or two. That'd be brilliant.
Okay, well, if it's okay, then I would like to just show you something about the London system, because you know, I've a couple of reasons. I heard you talking about it in the club, and I'd never heard of the London system, despite having played a lot of chess when I was a lot younger, and having just come back to chess after a 30-year break before Christmas. I decided I didn't want to get into opening theory, and I could see opening theory's actually moved on quite a lot. And I now understand why the London system is called a system. So, you know, I'm just going to share with you this screen from chess.com. Now, I'm going to show off by showing you what I'm really quite pleased with this game. But just to be fair, I'm going to show you a game where I lost to Julian. I don't know if Julian is still online. Okay, he's not. But
yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so I wanted to show you how to play the London system and how not to play the London system. So I'm going to go through this very quickly. You can see it's a blitz game. I'm finding I've played a lot of blitz since I've come back to chess, and it's enabled me to get through openings and understand the principles very quickly, but of course you make a lot of mistakes. And you quite often don't have enough time to think through the right combination. So I was very pleased in this blitz game, which is a 2 minute plus 1 second increment.
Wow.
Bullet game it is. Very pleased that I managed to see the right combination at the end. Now, for those of you that don't know the London system, I'll just explain some of the principles as you go through. He says, trying to find, I think he's going to move this away. I'm wondering why it's saying play, and there we go. So London system is D4, and the idea of a system is that the first few moves for white are set. So you can play these moves very quickly, and you can see here, that's what we're doing. So the advanced London system, you get your bishop out onto F4, don't trap your bishop in behind the pawn moving to E3. White was obviously hoping for a French, reverts back into a traditional sort of queen's pawn. The advantage of this is without White's queen bishop now able to come onto the king side, I've got a bit more freedom about placing my bishop on D3, my knight on F3, and so on. I really do think if Black doesn't bring the queen bishop out, we've really got to play an early C5, which is what Julian did in the game against me. Black doesn't do that here, so there's some fairly set principles which you can play towards. So this is fairly standard. For those of you that are relative beginners, a common, what's the word? Not experienced in this opening. A common thing here is to push the bishop back. The idea being that if Black wants to take the bishop, it's not really the best move to do, and my opponent took the bishop. Now, you find a lot of beginners will take the bishop because they want to give you double pawns, and of course it wrecks my king position up for kingside castling. But here, I'm going to want to try and exert pressure down the h-file, and I'm going to not want to castle kingside. Quite often I find in these games, if I get this sort of position, I end up not castling at all, and sometimes getting caught out because of that. White obviously sees that coming, plays h6.
Play knight g5 here just to be annoying.
No, you're right. Knight g5 is a very common move in the London system, and sacrificing at some point. And I don't know whether I don't actually get my knight to g5 in this one, but you can see.
Being serious.
Yeah, but the knight on there and sacrificing the knight against the castle king is is a common theme. White decides to castle anyway. Black castles perhaps a little bit early. Again, I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly. So I've got now those moves that I played are very very standard. I think Black's pawn to queen's knight 3. Not really achieving anything. I think bishop going on b7. It's not really pointing anywhere. Unless he's going to prepare a c5, but he could have played c5 at any time anyway.
Would Black play that with a view of playing bishop a6 to trade off?
Yeah, that's more logical.
I think that's a good point. I would agree with that.
Yeah. No, it's the odds.
I have had some positions where the castle king doesn't, where Black doesn't castle and plays b6, and if you haven't played your bishop to d3, you can suddenly exploit these squares here, and I found that worked quite well for me. One of the things in the London is as soon as Black is threatening to play e5, he may have had his rook on e8 and his knight on d7, as you very quickly come in with your knight here to block that. So I decided to go for it anyway. I'm not saying, bearing in mind this is bullet is what my excuse for some of the mistakes you'll see in a minute, but I think some of the principles are are correct.
Good move.
Personally, I'm never sure whether you play when to play f4 here and when to play queen's knight to f3.
I was considering king e2 actually, Mark.
No. F4's must
I'm
be
going to
right
sack.
here.
I'm going to sack
Not
the
blocking
rook,
any Black's third bishop or anything.
Play
So,
queen
yeah.
h1.
Right. So Black decides to come in with c5 now. I think you do get some fairly close positions when, earlier on, black plays c4. And if we've got time, I just want to show you how Julian played that.
So rook c1 now. So after c4, bishop b1.
Yes. Yeah, that would have been, that's a good tactic. I've never done that before, actually. I will bear that in mind.
In general, if black's threatening to play c4 and close the bishop down,
yeah,
try and play rook c1.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And then quite often people forget there's a bishop on b1.
Yeah, I have had a situation where black hasn't played this this move h6, and in bullet games people just seem to forget. And as soon as you take that pawn, if the knight's not there, the bishop, the game's generally won. I can't remember. I think, did I just take this off? Yeah, deciding while he's blocking this, and
threatening knight g3.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, of course. So take this off. I play this move now, which is a mistake. Perhaps you can see. Anybody can see what the mistake is from me, or what the next best move is for black.
Well, he could play g5.
Well, the knight's sort of short of squares, isn't it?
G5 is the G5 really sort of.
Although he does have queen g4, you go to queen g4 to g5.
Clear.
Yeah, I will admit to having seen g4 and thinking, well, this is another one of those things where I'm either sacrificing my knight and opening up this file, but so I wasn't that worried about it. But anyway, black never played it. And this just allows me to march in now. And so I'm just going to play the next few moves fairly quickly. And I just want to get to a certain position.
Yeah.
Right. So anybody want to suggest the move for white?
H5 and mate him.
Right. And this is I was trying to work out the win here because I think here I'd assume that knight g5 was the move.
I think queen h8.
Yeah, just play queen
h8.
Queen h8.
Yeah, because the thing with knight g5 is there's a lot of, knight can come in here, queen can then take the pawn, bishop can check if the king. And yeah, so I was quite pleased when I saw that in my.
Nice, pretty.
I still had 41 seconds left, but I was quite pleased with that. And of course, the end of the game is.
Good.
Yeah, very pretty.
Yeah, and you quite often don't get to that level in bullet. You tend to make a mess of it, and you miss the mate and wish that you'd never. Yeah. So if it's okay with you, I'd just like to quickly show you maybe a way to play against the London system.
Yeah.
And it's the way that I thought Julian played, and maybe Julian, if you don't mind, explaining some of this, that would be useful.
1e5 is quite effective.
Let's see. This happened in the
pre-move to bishop f4. It can be unpleasant.
Yeah. Now this happened in our tournament the other week, and so.
Was this the one from 3 weeks ago?
Yes, this is the one. I need to turn the analysis off, I think. So now we both made some mistakes. I certainly made a lot more mistake. I'm just going to right. I'm sure there was a quicker way of going back than that, but yeah. So so fairly standard start. But yeah, here Julian counters with c5, and I've decided that as black now, this is I tend to get a c5 in fairly early, and it tends to give a much better result, and it does tend to avoid me getting the kingside attack starting if you're white.
I mean, the problem with bishop f4 is after e3, b2 is undefended.
Yeah.
So ideas of queen b6 are going to be quite annoying.
I think that's played in the game, so we're fairly standard here, and this is you can play this move again if black plays queen takes queen. That's better for me, and we quite often have this position where black tries to force me to take the queen, and this is what Julian played, c4. I think the best move here is actually Queen C2. You know, I rather automatically took the Queen.
After Queen C2, Bishop F5.
No, he's played 92 already.
Yeah,
Okay,
can't
yeah,
do
and
that.
then Rook B1.
Doesn't
Yeah,
work.
Yeah,
not quite working there, is it?
No.
No, he's got the knight on B1. They can play Bishop F5.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Now, you can see the tactic here of moving the double B pawn up to B4, and then the B7 one. So the double pawn doesn't really hold you back, and this pawn becomes, you know, a pretty big weakness if I don't play this correctly, and I don't play this correctly. And I just felt here that I was losing the game very early, and you know, nothing really happened here.
Was E6 better than Bishop F5, Julian? Because quite often you play Bishop F5 and then B4 and then Bishop A3.
Well, you mean you as in people who are playing black, or me?
Yeah. So
I think
I don't understand why you played E6 before Bishop F5.
I think in this system you have to keep the bishop inside the pawn chain, but
really,
I can't remember.
Can't
There was a
it might be worthwhile having a look at the sort of famous game, sort of Marshall Capablanca from about New York 1924, where Capablanca played Bishop F5 in the exchange Slav, and then played Bishop D7 and D6.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that idea.
Yeah.
But I thought
here is very specific, because you're trying to, you know, this is a very specific idea where you're trying to humiliate the A1 rook with the two bishops.
Yeah.
And you get the bishop to A3 and then play Bishop B2 and win the C pawn.
Yeah, this
and
is
White's
exactly,
position just collapses into a heap.
Yeah, this is exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
Now, the analysis did say here, knight takes knight from, White playing knight takes knight at several points in the next few moves.
Yeah, I think you've got to do that.
Yeah, and you know, I definitely missed that.
And now Bishop A3 is a problem.
Yeah, I needed to play A4 here. And I think that as soon as Black got to this position,
this is difficult now.
Yeah, I did take this here, but I think up in the computers now saying that Black's 3 points 3 points up. I've got not a lot to do here, and
the C pawn's terrible.
Yeah, I do get a little bit of play, and we both make some small mistakes here, but I think by the time we get to this position here now, you know, I don't think we need to look much further into this. I think this C pawn,
good.
Julian managed to just march this down the board, and I got a little bit of counterplay, but you know, I think this, you know, having played that bullet game earlier where I had a lovely kingside attack, you know, this took me back to square one about trying to work out, trying to reassess some fundamentals and working out how to play this better. So
but this is probably the most critical line against the London system anyway, focusing on B2.
Yeah.
And if you know, if Black plays actively with C5 and Queen B6, then it's difficult. I think that you have to finesse the move order in the way that White plays an early knight D2 and defers knight F3. If you can defer knight F3, that's certainly advisable, and play knight D2 first, and that cuts out some of the tactics.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to look at this further. I have looked at some of the lines where White brings the queen to B6 and you sacrifice the pawn on B2, and I've analysed these lines where, what White takes advantage of the queen by moving his knight up, attacking the pawn on C7 and stuff. And I've never actually had that in over the board games, but I've had even since I played Julian, I've had a couple of bullet losses in more or less exactly the same way. Lost the B2 pawn and the C3 pawn, and the C4, the black C pawns just marched on. So
one of the other points of deferring knight F3 is if black attempts to chase the bishop down with knight h5. The knight hangs on h5. Because obviously there's, you can just take it off with the queen.
Yes.
So
good point.
This is, that was one of the main ideas of actually changing the move order in the so-called accelerated London system, which I think was popularised by Jonathan Rowson, if I remember.
But
this is the Achilles heel kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the key thing though for me, and I think people call the London system boring, and I was trying to show in the first game, well, it can be exciting, but it's boring, which is good for me, not wanting to learn a lot of openings and to try and sort of practice end games, middle games, and things. And I think for people who, certainly if I have my time over again, I spent way too much time as a youth learning opening theory when I should have been playing middle games. And I think the London system gets you into the more strategic stuff. And so I'd certainly recommend it to to people who relatively new. But you're right. I think give this another 6 months, and I'll be looking for playing. Did I say proper openings again? So.
Well, Mike Franklin made a career out of playing this line in the 60s and 70s, and he scored a lot of points with it. But he was playing knight f3 first.
Yeah.
Maybe Ken, are you still there?
Yes.
Why did I think we've got? Have we still got time to see your the game that you showed me the other day?
What was
that hack attack?
Are you finished, Mark?
Yes.
Sorry. That was
no. I've definitely finished. So that would be great. So I'm
sorry.
That was good. That was good.
No, thank you.
A bit preemptive there.
What was it? I can't.
You showed me the other day, but it was some London system where the.
I'll see if I can dig it out. Just a minute.
For those of us who don't play the London system or don't ever have it played against us, it's actually all new, I think, unless I'm speaking out of turn. I don't know if everybody knows it, but the first 4 or 5 moves seem to be, you can almost play them almost whatever black does. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's the idea of calling it a system. Yeah. Right,
and that's partly why you say if you learn it, you don't have to learn too much opening stuff, but you still got to know what to do after that, haven't you?
Yeah. I think that's right. But a beginner could, play that, get most of his pieces out, and hopefully get to a middle game, and they've not made too many mistakes.
It's a similar. I would say it has a similar philosophy to it, to the Collie. The Collie Zucator opening, which is also extremely well worth exploring if you don't want to spend a huge amount of time.
Yeah, you want to get out the opening with a playable game.
Yeah,
without having to invest.
I think the Collie Zucator
hours of effort
is well worth examining.
Yes, I think it's a respectable one.
John, you don't get the problem on B2 either with the Collie, do you?
No, because you've got a pawn on B3.
Yeah,
true.
I don't think I know what that one is. Does somebody want to show it?
Well, Ken, let's see your London system game first. But
am I able? Okay, I'll try sharing a screen. Let's see if I've got the right screen.
I see you've opened drawer number 2 on the left, Ken.
Yeah.
A new drawer has appeared on the top of the pile.
I think this is the one John was talking about.
Yes.
It's like having a real life advent calendar, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. Was this? I think this is the one.
This looks familiar. Yeah. Can you make it any larger, by any chance?
I can try. Is that any larger?
That's better. That's better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
D4.
Were you white or black, Ken?
I was white.
Right.
Okay. And I played here. I don't necessarily. I think John's right about delaying the King's Knight coming out, but it's never really bothered me. So, and if I open one knight f3, I'll get into this position anyway, so it doesn't upset me. Okay. Now you've really got a choice. I'm going to reinforce the pawn on d4 with either e3 or c3. I think e3 is the one that's played the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. But I've seen Mark Hebden play c3.
Well, that's normally when the bishop's on g5.
Yeah, but I think you can play it here as well. To be honest,
play it here as well.
It may even transpose.
Yeah.
Okay. My opponent played. I don't know why he played that. Knight c3 would have been sensible as well.
Yeah, I mean, just a point. When you're playing the black side of this position,
yeah,
there's no real point to playing e6 until white attacks the d5 pawn
with c4.
So you know, a lot of people play e6, closing down their c8 bishop for no reason at all.
Yeah, and also to get the king's bishop out.
Yeah.
Now knight c3 got played, and I played bishop here. Although I could have played knight b d2.
Well, it's interchangeable, isn't it?
Yeah, 6.5.
But I think yeah.
And now I have taken off here because I think positionally, the out of black's two bishops, the bishop that's on d6 is a better piece. Yeah. But the problem
so's your bishop on f4. Yeah.
Yeah, better than my bishop on f4. However, if you do that, then black very often gets e5 in very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think black's position is perfectly fine with pawns on c5 and d5. Yeah, if you traded it off on everyone on the e4s. So I drop it back here and see if they go and take it, as in your game, Mark.
When you can leave it on f4.
Well, yeah, I've tried that as well, leaving it on f4, and if they take with the and then you're clamping down on the e5 square.
Yeah, exactly.
I've a little bit of suspicion about that move, but I've certainly played it, and I've played it in similar positions with colours reversed. But I think here, if they do take, then I prefer that. So castles, like d2. I'm waiting to see. I'm not going to castle if they're going to take the bishop because I want to open the H file, obviously.
Yeah.
Rook e8. And now this is the point at which you've got to decide what it is you're going to do. And as in now I learned from Mark's game, but I knew it anyway. Now's the time to lob in knight in, especially since knight takes e5, loses a piece.
Yeah, that's unwise, isn't it?
However, my opponent's next move was a surprise to me. He played here, and I didn't. All I could think of was maybe he's trying to move the knight to f5. It didn't seem right. It just didn't seem right to move the knight. I think he should have probably played queen c7 and maybe b6 and bishop b7, something along that line of play. Don't think it's right. So I castle now. It seemed like the right thing to do. And he moves the knight in here. Now, he can take that knight on there, and I still would take with the rook's pawn, but I couldn't see any reason for giving myself double pawns if there was no reason for it. So, and I thought this was fairly safe just to do this. Because as in Mark's game, I'm going to play g4 and advance on the king side, get things going. I'll be quite safe. My king should be safe over there. Notice, of course, his bishop is still on c8 is not a very good piece. He played h6. I think that's to stop me playing bishop g5 in some lines, but now I went here. Now, I thought probably his best principled move here was probably to play g5 anyway.
Yeah.
Probably. But I couldn't decide whether I should just play pawn takes knight at that point or whether I should drop the bishop back and take any. I probably would have dropped the bishop back. I'm not sure. Fortunately, he didn't give me time to think about it because he moved the knight back, which I thought was quite good of him. And now, now this may be a little bit overly optimistic. Why did I stick the king in the corner? Well, I had ideas I was going to play rook g1 and g5 here and come hammering down the g file at him. It's a bit, I know it looks a bit crude, but it probably will be quite effective. But he dissuaded me from playing rook g1 here by playing g5 himself. And I thought, oh, that can't be right. He's moving a pawn in front of his king here. So he's just going to, he's encouraging me now after bishop here to play f4. Yeah. And then and with some sort of attack down the f file.
Couldn't
And
you
his
just got
next
on with it
move-
and played g5 anyway, Ken, instead of king h1?
Sorry?
Couldn't you have played g5 instead of king h1 and just
Very possibly. Yeah. Very possibly. I mean,
that g5
maybe
thing?
I was just in an extremely direct and crude move here. Yeah. I don't know why. It's not like me at all. Right. So now I'm looking very, very, very much at f4 as a move to try and break up through to his king. And it was round about now I suddenly noticed that the square f7 was probably a little bit weak. Yeah. Now I've got a knight sort of on e5 and f7. Yeah. And now he encouraged me even further, I have to admit, by defending his knight by king g7.
That's crazy.
Well, I think it's suicidal, but I wasn't responsible for his moves. So I thought, well, there's only one move to do here.
F4.
Open up the F file, surely.
Stop calling me Shirley.
So I played that. It's the only move.
Why would you not play f4? Can you give me a reason not to?
Well, I did want to originally put the rook on g1, but I'm glad I didn't get round to it now because f1's the very best square for it to be on.
This is all up.
Yeah,
all over, isn't it? Really gone.
So now he's got to decide what on earth to do here, and I don't know. I kept on looking at how juicy the square f7 was. Yeah.
What about knight e7 c6?
Well, I think putting the knight back to probably where it was is probably sensible, but even so, he's still got some problems here. I even wondered whether actually rook back to f8 may be his best try here. Yeah, but he went for something a little bit more adventurous, which is often not a good thing to do when your king's in trouble. He played here. I think the idea is to try and get something down against my king now, but unfortunately, it just begs the moves here. Okay.
Yeah. So I think you can see what take on g5 and then rook f6.
Yeah. And now I simply took on f6. And now we see the problem with the f7 square. Because he's got to take back with his king.
Yeah.
Yeah. Queen f3 check.
Ouch.
And now he can't move his king to g7. Can we see why?
Yeah, queen takes.
Yeah, that's a little bit strong.
Queen takes. Queen takes.
Plays that. Queen takes check.
And that's the end of that.
Queen here, mate.
No, it's not about mating 2, yeah.
Well, mating 2, yeah.
Well, it's mate next move. Okay. So he didn't do that. And as soon as I saw he had to give the knight back, I thought, well, that's a pretty good deal now because sorry, his king's here, isn't he? He has to give the knight back straight away. So I've now got 2 knights for rook and pawn, and I've still got a good attack against his king. So I took. He took. I just thought the quiet move, bringing the rook into f1. And now I don't think he can defend the the F. I'm going to win at least a pawn and hopefully break through to his king. What he tried was this, running away with his king, which is a bit naughty. I was hoping he'd keep his king in the mating net, but I'll have to get rid of this to open the F file up. And now he tried this move, which I don't think is any good at all.
Yeah, it's completely lost, isn't it?
Well,
what about bishop e5? That's completely terrible as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So I took here and he took with the rook.
Yeah.
And now it's a case of trying to get in amongst his king, but it doesn't take long to realize that he can't play f takes e5 because of queen f7 check wins again.
Yeah, you got queen f5, haven't you?
Yeah, well, that's right. Queen f5 is infiltrating into this position. Okay. So he really doesn't have very much here now. I was trying to work out what his best move might be here. Okay. Because it all looks so dreadful. So I don't really know what his best move is.
Rook h6 is about the only thing, isn't it?
Well, that's what he played, which
yeah, knight
turned out
g4,
particularly good. Yeah,
He's got to do something.
knight here, with a little bit of calculation. I've got to work out that bishop takes g3, knight takes rook on h6. He's then got to save his bishop somehow. And then the knight coming back to g4. And I don't think he can defend at all on the f6 square. However, he managed to go from bad to worse here. Now the rook can't move at all. It's checkmated. Not only that, it loses material again. So I could just simply take here, took with the queen, I took the rook, and now he gave up.
Good attack.
Nice one.
Well, yeah, I was hoping to be able to play. I wasted the move with king h1. Trying it with the idea of rook g1. I was wondering how that would turn out. So I didn't really have to do that, but I have to say he did rather encourage me to be able to do that.
Good game. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Very good, Ken. I think we've probably had enough for this evening.
Right. Okay. I'll stop sharing. There we go.
Thank you very much.
Good, Ken. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. And thank you again, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
I
thank you, Mark.
enjoyed that, and
Thank you very
I'm
much.
sure others did as well. And I think it shows that we don't have to always do chess. We can do something a little bit different. I'm going to have a go at Go and see how I get on, and maybe some others will. And let's come back to that subject in the future. So don't forget, next Tuesday we've got Michael Adams, and also if you haven't played in our Sunday tournaments, 4 o'clock Sunday, please join us on chess.com. It's 1 hour. It can't be any more because it cuts you off. The last 3 or 4 Sundays we've played, and you get about 5 or 6 games in, or 7 if you're Julian and you play fast. Julian won our last one on Sunday. Clearly playing quickly and winning more is the way to win, but it's all good fun. I think we've had some very good games actually. And if you want to have a look at the results or click on the games, if you go on the news tab on Camberley chess.co.uk, you'll see, and you can click and see what the ratings were and what the games were and everything. But yeah, join us on Sunday.